Okay, today we are going to install the Ricochet skid plate on my 2017 Versys X. I've got all the hardware it came with, the instructions, some tools. So let me look this over and we'll get started. So before I brought the bike back here, I already took off this plate, which goes on here, like, it goes in here, yeah, like this. So it's just 3 4mm hex screws, and looks like some bushings that come out of here. I don't believe these can go back on after we install this, so just keep that in mind. I was maybe looking for a way that I could possibly modify this so these could go back on, but I'm just going to put on the skid plate now and worry about seeing about these later. So just going to remove these side panels too, just so there's a better view. Pop this out of that grommet there. That should get us. We gotta remove this 14mm bolt. It's an engine mount, and I think there's one, I believe it's right there. So those two are the main mounting points for the plate, and then it also attaches here. So I've already loosened this one. So let's see, I'll just pull that out. Now, one thing I will note is it would probably be easier to have done this when I had these panels and engine guards off. It wasn't too hard to get in there, but it's, you know, you got to pull on it pretty hard, so it's hard to kind of get, you know, a socket in there and then have a wrench on the other side, although it did just break free without putting a wrench on the other side. So pull this bolt out. As you can see, it's kind of a tight clearance, you know, with this stuff in the way, so it would have just been a little bit easier to do this without that there. Okay, so the instructions say to, you know, grab another engine mount bolt and okay. Start by installing the upper mount. This is the U-shaped one with the 2 6mm thread inserts, which are these. Let's just go over and take a look here. Let's see if I can get a decent angle on this. Turn away. Oh, we gotta put this in here. So put these in toward. I feel like that's the way, so I'm gonna just put this in. Okay, we'll push that in. They made it look so easy online. Let's see. No. Almost there. And I think I put in the wrong one. So don't assume that they're the same length. One is a little longer, longer one goes here. Let's go ahead and push this one in now. Let's go ahead and push this one in now. Come on. There we go. So the tabs facing forward are here, so the bracket goes on like this. And you can see that comes out like so. And they say just to hand tighten, they come with nylon lock nut washers. So it says just get on there, hand tighten it until we get everything else kind of in place, and then the last step in the instructions is to, after you install all this and tighten this stuff down, is tighten the 2 engine mount bolts. So let's go ahead and loosen this other one. The bolt is right in here, and we're gonna go ahead and loosen that one up. Get something with a little bit more leverage. How well you can see in there, but okay, pull that out. There's one of these other bolts. So on this side, comes out right here where it's a bit oily and dirty from the chain, which I was a little bummed out. They don't have any, I guess, kind of blocking plate or a shield, so like any chain lube or anything that sprays off comes right down onto this manifold and you can smell it burning. But yeah, the chain rides right here. And, you know, it's to be expected, oil and stuff will collect in this area, but I didn't expect that the manifold would be right here, the exhaust. Alrighty. Let's just get this out of the way for a minute, if we can. Okay. Take a look at our instructions, but I believe it goes in like this. So yeah, the 2 tabs facing rearward. So got these tabs, they're facing towards the back of the bike, but on this piece you kind of have to finagle it in a bit. There we go. Let's get this bolt. So I wedged this tool, whoops, up in here to hold it into place on the other side so I can tap it through. Because it keeps wanting to slide down. Okay, it sounds like it's through. So this side is through, although seems like it's kind of short. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, this side doesn't have a whole lot of thread sticking out. Maybe this needs to clamp down a little more once this is on. So let's try. Now I'm not tightening this down all the way, but I want to get this aligned a little bit better because I don't think it's seated properly. That is not long enough. So I don't know about this kit. I'm looking at this bolt. That is almost torqued down. I mean, there's just a tiny bit of wiggle room on this part, a little bit. But if you can see in there, that bolt, even with like another turn, isn't even gonna barely make it to the end of the nut. And I was looking at this one. This one is still loose. This one will probably make it. It's just, well, it's spinning on the other side. That one seems like it's gonna come out a couple, a millimeter or two, but this one doesn't look like it's gonna make it. I mean, it's, it's not torqued down yet, but I'm a little disappointed that that bolt should be a little bit longer. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the install, but I'm just a little irritated. Okay, so it says take this bracket and get yourself one of the flat washers and this nylock nut and attach it to that. Yeah, that's how a bolt should come up through a nut, and I don't see that happening on that one, so we'll see. So these are some vibration dampeners, and then this bracket will go down there. So let's do both of those real quick and put those on. Where's that other bracket? So you're going to put this on with one of these 1/4-inch washers. It's a little loose. I put a little Loctite on there because I screwed up and put the wrong washer on and had to reuse the nylock nut. Okay, for these we need this bolt. It says it's a 6mm by 16 hex bolt, a 1/4-inch washer, and then a lock nut or a lock washer. So I'm gonna get 2 of those ready. And there are 2 different sizes of these. So it looks like they want the shorter ones. So this side goes here. So this one has the shorter spacing. Oops. Okay, so let's grab the other ones. So on this side, goes right here. Loose. Okay, for those who don't read instructions like I don't, you'll see two of these heavy duty washers, and because there's the two rubber vibration dampeners, I kind of just assumed that, you know, there's those two, I'll use these two, because then there's all these other flat washers. But these get used elsewhere, so don't put those on the rubber stoppers. Use the other washers. There's a bunch of the same, and then there's just these two, but I read ahead and it looks like these get used later. So now it looks like we get to install the plate. So it says to install the front plate, or front of the plate, with those two heavy duty washers and a lock washer and these longer 20mm bolts. So let me get those two ready. They've got a little play. Back them up just a tiny bit. Okay, so they've got some play there. So now we're going to install, what are these, 4mm? Yeah. These shorter flathead hex key, they are going to come in from the bottom and attach to these vibration dampeners. And I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite on them. Okay. There we go. Now lastly, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but there are 3 other screws that need to attach to this bracket, and I'm gonna have to just loosen that a little bit so to give it a little wiggle. Still just irritated about this nut. I don't understand. Okay, last 3 that go in. Tight on that one. Move that bracket backwards, or this forward. Come on. Tighten that one good and snug. This over here, not like you'll be able to see much better, but okay, those are all snugged in. Now I'd imagine, I mean, I left all this stuff loose, but it seems pretty well in place, so I'm just gonna loosen everything and just make sure it's got a little wiggle room and then tighten everything down. So I'm going to tighten down these front ones. A little too tight to get in there with a socket, so I'm just gonna have to this one might be able to get a socket on it. Hush. Yeah. Oh, this one has more room. Now it's time to tighten down these engine mounts. Okay, it's time to torque these engine mounts, and they are 51 foot-pounds. We'll do this. it. Okay. That one says good. This one is going to be a lot more of a pain in the ass. That bolt is not long enough in my opinion. This one, long enough. This one, let's see if I can. That is not long enough. Damn it. I am not pleased by that. I will be emailing them, and I guess just going and getting my own bolt. That's going to be such a pain in the ass to take that out and get another one and put it in, but that's not long enough. I don't feel comfortable with that. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but yeah, I don't like that at all. Deal with that another day. I'm gonna put those side panels back on and show you what it looks like. The other thing that you'll need to consider is, so with this cover can't go back on because this gets in the way, and that attaches to these this area here. So you may want to, I don't know, cover this a little bit better and strap it back, and get a little bit more something on it. And this thing here, this bracket here, its only purpose is this grommet. I suppose you could take it off, but I'll leave it on because it does also hold this wire, but I suppose you could take it off and route that wire a little different. And then this grommet hole here, you could take out the grommet or just leave it in, but the side panel, the grommet goes here, and then it screws in here, here, and here, but obviously you can't. I'll just grab the piece. So this piece would normally go here, but obviously it can't get down in there to screw in. The alternative, if you didn't really care, or you later on want to take this off and buy new pieces, is you could mark it and cut it here, and then it would grommet in here and then screw in here. And because this would be reduced, it would just be, it would be kind of cut here. It almost, so you can, oops, you can get it in that grommet there, and it almost reaches this. So yeah, I mean, if you marked it carefully, you could cut this where you wouldn't see the cut line because it would be below this, and it would be attached by one screw and one grommet, and it would just be a small piece of plastic. I may do that, I don't know. And it would also kind of shield this and just give it a little bit more of a finished look, but I'll think about that for some other time. Let's see this other side. So yeah, this piece would go in here. I guess that one doesn't really matter as much. Yeah, again, you could cut, but I would almost say on this side you could leave it off. But you could cut at some point and then screw it on here. So there's a screw fitting here for this. But then it doesn't really have a second attachment point if you've cut these, so you may just want to leave that off. How does this go on? Okay, here we go. One grommet to a third. Another one here somewhere. So these grommets pop out quite a bit. Oops. This one also had a bushing that popped out on this, so put that back in. Okay, we'll get a good look at it here. I might take it out for a ride in a bit, maybe get a better look at it that way. Go ahead and put it up on the center stand. So there it is. It looks pretty good. It's gonna help keep, so I was riding out in the rain and some other dirt and mud, and you know, you just get a lot of stuff collecting in here, and you know, this will help reduce that, especially just keeping this tire from spraying up onto this, so that'll help a lot. But other than that, it looks good. Still just concerned about this bolt here though. So it's got these rubber anti-vibration things, but when you put it on, I feel like this bracket should have been bent in a little bit more or something, so this one's kind of wedged in there. Let me see the other side. Get out of here, go. Yeah, this one's more up and down, you know, straight up and down, and that one, it's kind of angled. I think, you know, the screw for the bottom, the screw that comes in from the bottom should have been over a little bit more, or maybe that bracket, I mean, I suppose I could take it off and bend it in a little bit, but that seems like a pain. I'm sure it's not the biggest deal, but I feel with the heat that's generated by this exhaust, and this is already, yeah, that's pretty deformed. I don't like that at all either. So, you know, the skid plate's really nice and it's robust, but, you know, maybe the fitment stuff could have been a little bit better for the money. I don't know why that's so, I don't want to have to take this off, but it just looks really misshapen to have to reach over to that hole. And all this stuff is lined up. There's really not a way for this to shift, you know, side to side. I mean, most of the shifting when you leave these bolts up on the mounting bolts loose is to, you know, have some wiggle room this way, but not really this way. There's not really any adjustment for that. So whatever. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, I think these things are like 200 bucks or something. I got, you know, they were running a special or something, and I think I got mine for 10 or 15% off. And maybe that's because I got a factory second. I don't know. You know, the bolt thing and this are bothersome, especially the bolt, because I got all the way through putting it on, and it just doesn't. It doesn't really sit that well for me to have that bolt. Really not. Let me get this camera back in here. Yeah, I don't know how well it'll come in focus or anything, but that's just, to me, not seated, you know, or it's not fully through. It should, in my opinion, at minimum, get flush with the end of the nut. And by all means, you know, be coming out a little bit too, so that's a problem. And then, you know, that, not the biggest deal. I'm sure that's fine. It's just a rubber damper, but like I said, with the heat from the exhaust and everything, and it's already, you know, being wedged into a deformity, you know, it could deteriorate a little bit quicker. Yeah. I'll get some more views of it when I do an update on all the other stuff that I've done. This weekend I'm hoping to put a 15-tooth sprocket on here. I don't know. I had factory grease on the chain, and I rode it for 400 or 500 miles, changed the oil, cleaned the chain with kerosene, and noticed that it's rusting. And you know, I lube it, I ride it, you know, in the rain and everything like that, and you know, I do park outside, but I cover it, but it's got lube on it now, but there's a decent amount of rust forming on it now. So you know, and I had mentioned on one of the forums that, you know, I picked up the bike in March, and you know, it had rained a bit, so a lot of the salt had been washed away, and I picked it up on a dry day and I rode it for a couple days, and then winter kicked back in, and I parked it in a friend's garage until, you know, mid to late April, and it had rained a bit and washed a lot of the salt away. You know, maybe I should have lubed it like right when I got it, but there was a thick amount of factory grease on it. In fact, even when I cleaned it at 500 miles, it took a decent amount of kerosene to get all the grease off, but after I got the grease off, there was rust on it, and I didn't really notice it as bad until I got the grease off of it. And so, you know, when I changed the sprocket, I've had chains in the past that were, you know, the DID, either the gold anodized or the nickel plated, but I've never had those rust, and I've rode those, you know, in all kinds of weather with, you know, just normal maintenance, sometimes even a slight lack of maintenance, and I've never had any, you know, get this kind of rustiness. I mean, I've only got, you know, 900 miles on the bike now, so we'll see. Anyway, that's it. I may clean myself up and take it out for a ride, although I'm, you know, not like that bolt's gonna come out, but I'm still just kind of pissed. You know, you sit down and do a lot of work on something like this, and then you realize you're gonna have to go back in. Well, first I'm gonna have to go get an appropriate size bolt, and I'm sure that size with a new nut, you know, that's gonna be like another 10 bucks or something. And then I'm gonna have to pull that out, and that one was harder to get to than this one, and it's, you know, in an oily, nasty, greasy area to go back in and, you know, get that out, knock it out, put another one in. So, you know, hopefully this is all. I don't think I have to loosen up anything else to put another one in, but I don't feel comfortable leaving it like that, you know, more than a short period of time. Like I said, like in all likelihood, it's fine, and you know, it's sufficient, but in my mind, it's not, and I think technically it's not. So, you know, either the bolt they supplied was not long enough, and on this side of the bracket here, there is kind of a metal spacer that's, you know, attached to the bracket. You know, had I known this before, I could have, you know, shaved that a little bit, you know, or I don't know, maybe that was just a, you know, from them a little bit too long. I think more importantly, or more likely, is the bolt wasn't long enough. And you know, I know that they don't make the bolts, so maybe it was just a bolt that, you know, they put in there and it was supposed to be a certain length. I didn't measure it. You know, maybe it was supplied to them wrong. So anyway, there it is.